The sixth generation of consoles is one of the most beloved, but also experimental times in gaming. It was a transitional period, the weird little pocket of time where we could still get a platformer from a B studio and have it be successful. Think games like Ty the Tasmanian Tiger or Attack of the Power of Juju. These kind of games could still make for successful series. After all, Ty and Tak both got 3 games. Well, in Tak's case it's technically 4, but you get what I mean. Yet, there was also a massive shift happening within the industry. Everyone could feel it. Grand Theft Auto 3 opened up the floodgates for a larger market of mature games. Yes, there were many mature games before GTA 3 that were mega successes. Metal Gear Solid is probably the best prime example of this. But Rockstar's seminal work set all sorts of new standards. People wanted more. They didn't just want these small, fun, quick bites of games, but now they wanted massive, multi-hour games with fully explorable worlds, deeper characters, and larger stories. Many other games would come to satiate these demands. The later GTA games, Resident Evil 4, Halo 1 and 2, and so many more I could think of. It was a truly experimental time for the medium. We hadn't exactly made the HD standard yet, and games wouldn't quite be as overly standardized like the various Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed games of the 7th gen. And all this left Naughty Dog in a strange place. They were one of the golden child development studios for PlayStation, making their definitive mascot for the PS1, Crash Bandicoot. He would appear in various commercials, ad spots, and so many more. He was basically the Mario of the PS1. Yet the PS2 presented them with all sorts of new ideas and challenges, which led them into making one of the best 3D platformers of all time. In my opinion, Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy. A platformer that focuses on giving you this rich and mysterious world to explore so seamlessly. Taking heavy influences from Mario 64 and Zelda Ocarina of Time. They gave us a world that had almost 0 load times, or at least ones that weren't visible to the player. But this is where we come back to Rockstar's major moment with GTA 3, because it sort of shifted the industry so fast that now Naughty Dog had sort of fallen behind the curve. GTA 3 had been released about 2 whole months before Jak's December 2001 release, and already this was one of the new standards for gaming. It also didn't help that Metal Gear Solid 2 and Final Fantasy X were released before it as well and had already made massive strides for gaming and set the bar pretty high. I kinda feel bad for them because Jak 1 is an incredibly great game. Maybe it's my nostalgia talking, but it's such a vibrant and fun game that I think almost anyone can enjoy. Though, now their target demographic of children ages 6 to 10 wanted things that made them feel cooler, older, maybe a bit edgier. Other games provided this. Ratchet & Clank was a massive hit, and that game trilogy is an example of how a lot of studios shifted gears over time. Yet, Naughty Dog decided to do something I find pretty interesting. For their second Jak game, they weren't just going to double down on what made the first one good. No, they'd keep a lot of their engine, which, by the way, was made from the ground up for their first Jak game. I'm not a coder, but come on, that is some technical wizardry. They'd keep a lot of their engine, elements of their design ethos, and smooth as butter platforming from their first endeavor, and then they'd shoot it into the future. In more ways than one. And that is how we got Jak 2. So, off rip, I want to address a few things. One, I did most of my recent playthrough of Jak 2 on Open Goal, which is this great passion project from Jak fans to have the entire trilogy decomped on PC and natively playable. That means we get true 16:9 ratio, improved textures, and more. Though it's still in development for the most part, so if there's something here that isn't exactly lining up with other game functions on PS2, that's why. I'll also say here that Jak 2 is one of the few examples where taking a complete left turn actually benefited a series in the long run. In a sense, I consider Jak 2 to be the most PS2 or 6th gen video game of all time. By that I mean it is quite literally an example of a massive shift that was happening over that certain period. Other games like Mario, Sonic, and even Mega Man were doing all sorts of different things during this period. Yet, a lot of Sony-owned PS2 platformers were very much unique ideas that were fresh. Like, Ratchet & Clank was a third-person shooter platformer. The goated Sly Cooper series is a stealth platformer. And Jak, well, it's the weirdest one. But it's also my favorite one out of these 3, so it's my weird little series. You could see from this game where Naughty Dog has been and where they would go. Hell, I'd go as far to this game that there's ideas here that would eventually be adapted into their Uncharted series, which is another personal favorite of mine. So, with enough of that setup out of the way, how's the actual game? Hey, welcome back. Another ad sponsored by me. Couldn't find a good affiliate for this, so I guess I just gotta tell you to like, subscribe, and comment. And sorry if the sound's all weird, we're fumigating my house right now, and I'm breathing in a ton of roach killing fumes. So, I guess I got 3 questions to ask you, so you can put them in the comments below. What's your favorite PS2 game? What's your favorite... Sorry. What's your favorite platformer? And how do you not die of roach fumes? Alright, you got that? Alright, we'll continue the video. The platforming in this game is top tier. I really mean it. I'd say that the Jak games have some of the best and flowing movement of all 3D platformers. I think the only 3D platformers that have maybe better movement are like the 3D Mario games, but hey, Jak being a solid second is nowhere near bad. Every single moment can be converted into the next. You can have your jump, double jump, dive roll, roll jump. Hell, you could even mix in combat moves for safer jumps, like doing a spin kick after a jump for some extra airtime. I know some will probably say that a game with a double jump means it's a lesser platformer than ones that don't have a double jump, and I do get where that idea comes from. There's a lot of 3D platformers where the double jump kind of makes jumps feel cheap and not too difficult, but this cannot be said for the Jak series. You really have to time that double jump just right. You can't just be throwing it out at random because then you'll overshoot or actually shoot under. Though to be fair, they've been using the double jump since Crash 3, and that game also has a great example of one. Though what helps this game be a great platformer is how they mix in all these different ideas into the main platforming. Eventually, you get access to the jet board, which is functionally a hoverboard you can use whenever you'd like. And this makes the platforming even more crazy. Imagine doing a platforming section where you're doing your normal jumps, dives, whatever, and then you have to pull out your skateboard halfway through and then just grind through a section of it. Come on, you have to admit that's cool, right? Which, I'll be honest here, I think this game made grinding on rails a better platforming tool than the early 3D Sonic games and Ratchet & Clank. Don't get me wrong, those games are still good, if not great, but I think Jak 2 finds a better way to mix it into the platforming more seamlessly. Of course, I also gotta talk about the gunplay in this game. It's a bit of a strange beast. It isn't exactly like your usual third-person shooter at the time, like say Max Payne. Instead, you have your 4 guns, all of which accomplish different things. Each one has a laser sight, except for the scatter gun, which is just your basic shotgun. Though you eventually get your blaster, Vulcan barrel, and peacemaker. The blaster is the best all-rounder gun in the mix. It's a traditional blaster rifle that does single shots, but you can combo it expertly into hand-to-hand combat. Like, you could punch and shoot and you'll rapid fire. You could do the same thing with a spin kick. You can also jump in the air, spin kick, and fire rapid shots, but this move actually sucks. People will tell you it's good, but it's just a panic move, so don't actually use it. The Vulcan barrel is a minigun, and it's basically for crowd control. Got a large group of enemies? Hold down the trigger and just let it rip. And the Peacemaker is essentially your instant kill or boss killing gun. Charge it up, let go, and just see people explode. Though again, it's not like your typical third-person shooter like I said earlier. You don't have a reticle or a trigger to aim, instead you just have the laser sight on all your guns excluding the scattergun. And aiming can be a bit finicky at times. You kind of have to wiggle around a bit to meet your target since it auto-aims and you do need to be in range, but it's not so bad that it outright ruins combat or makes it boring. I'd say it's heavily built around movement and staying patient. If you panic in this game and don't find your route in combat, you will die. I think that's why people say this game is so hard, because it's a game that rewards patience. I guess it's a bit like Dark Souls. Shut up. Not every difficult game that rewards patience is a Souls game. Geez, I'm tired of hearing this opinion on the internet. I don't even mind Soul games, just not every game that rewards patience is a Souls game, okay? Shut up. Seriously though, it's a game that keeps you on your toes, sure. I won't deny it's a challenge at times, but it's not this I'm gonna break my controller difficulty like say Ninja Gaiden is. It's somewhere in between, okay, this is a bit annoying and wow, that's a fun challenge. Very rarely would I say that there were missions that actively pissed me off. Only a few major ones I could think of is the mission where you have to break the devices in the water by running into them. It's just a bit obnoxious and the physics can be terrible. It doesn't help that they place a hovercraft next to your starting position to bait you into using it. Look, I'm not inherently against beginner's traps, in fact I think they could be useful when designing, but this is the only time the game does anything like this, so I don't understand why it's here. The second lurker mission is also just really annoying. I literally lost it once because the AI is so stupid that it dove straight into the water and died. I didn't make it do that, it just happened, man, like I had to restart. But I'll say for every bad mission or level, there's at least like 3 good ones. So there's absolutely that. I should add here that while the gameplay and combat is fun, Dark Jak is a bit of a missed opportunity. I actually had to add this into my script after writing it because I remembered, oh yeah, I kind of forgot about Dark Jak because I almost never used it. Maybe that's the idea, but I feel like there could have been ways to implement it more into the gameplay. Especially since they've shown the ability to mix in other ideas into the usual mix already. Now, Jak 2 is at its absolute best when they mix all these things together into one true platforming gunplay full experience. For example, the best level in the game, to me, is when you're escaping the castle. You fight off all the guards in gunfights, but also platforming across gaps and flipping off poles, and having to shatter glass in order to grind whatever's there to get past. Jak 2 is at its best when it's mixing these completely different ideas and then just throwing it at you, and it somehow works. Another great example of this is the weapons factory mission before the end of the game. Mixing in the gunplay on the conveyor belts is just a nice touch. It's a bit of challenge, but each screw up felt like it was my mistake. Also, Mars Temple is also a highlight with some clever puzzles and a great boss fight at the end. Though, if I'm being real, the boss fights aren't really a highlight of this game, excluding this one in Mars Temple. All the other ones are pretty simplistic, just kinda keep shooting until they die. Though, I also gotta say, Jak 2 is a PS2 game, and this was an era where gimmick levels and gimmick missions were maybe a bit too common. I understand maybe it stops the game from getting monotonous, but I very rarely like these gimmick levels, at least if they're not incorporating main gameplay elements. One good level that I say has a good gimmick is when you have to drop the bombs into the mining machines while using the jet board. It heavily relies on your skill with the board and your skills at finding a good route, and the stress of being timed makes it a real good challenge. However, the bad gimmicks are pretty much the ones you could find in way too many games from the 6th and 7th generation. Like, oh boy, it's a turret mission. I'm sorry, I've never cared for these. Why did game devs have such a hard-on for these back in the day? I'm not saying there hasn't been any good turret missions, but they're usually so damn boring, man. And Jak 2 is in the latter camp of this. All you do is you go on rails, waiting for enemies to appear, shoot, and repeat. Doesn't really take all that much skill at all if I'm being real. There's no reflex tests, there's not really anything of note. If I wanted to play an on-rail shooter, I'd just have played Pokemon Snap. That's my favorite Pokemon game, by the way, out of like the 3 I've played. But man, if you think the turret missions are bad, oh boy. The Titan suit levels, these mech controls, suck. Imagine this, tank controls, but they're slippery. Listen, I like tank controls. In fact, I kinda miss games with tank controls, to be honest. But tank controls require a sense of precision. Resident Evil and Onimusha require you to position yourself. The Titan suit missions just feel like I'm controlling PS1 Leon as he slips in the bathtub. It's awful, it's annoying, I don't get why it's here, it's just not fun at all. The second Titan suit mission is the worst, and honestly I completely forgot the first because it was that boring. And the last one is a bit better if you don't get snagged on the level geometry so much, but overall these levels are either just not memorable or just not fun, man. Like, why are these here if they're just not going to be interesting? They also give you quite a few racing missions in this game, and I actually think they're pretty fun. The physics can be a bit goofy at times, but overall they're a good time. Though the street race you have with Errol's a bit weird because I swear the rubber banding on him is crazy in that mission. Like, I swear I saw him hit a wall and he was back on my ass in like less than a minute. Maybe I'm tweaking or something, but it feels like there's a lot of rubber banding there. After talking about the gameplay and all that though, let's move on to the visuals and music. I love the art style for this game, and I do for all the Jak games. It has this Saturday morning cartoon energy, mixing in elements of anime and Western animation as well. I think the artist did a good job at translating the more mystical and bubbly world of the first Jak into this darker setting. Just look at Jak himself. He's a bit more rugged, he has some long hair, but still has some of that bits of fun troublemaker still inside him. The world design is also stellar. They make each zone of the city look so unique from one another. And really the map design of this game is super solid. I don't think I ever got lost on this map once. They give you enough landmarks and visual identifiers to make your way through without using the minimap too much. Though there's really only one zone of the map that I'd say is bad or annoying, and that's the water slums. Just because it's weird to move around and drive in, it feels like a death trap, and maybe that's intentional since they do that one mission where you get swarmed at guards, but that's not the reason I don't like this map. I just don't like it, I think it's boring, it's not really fun to move around in. My favorite city zones are probably the castle square with the statue of Mar in the middle, and Krew's area with the large open area of water, and the mountain temple. Man, the mountain temple is so cool. It helps that the song there is also really good. Speaking of which, the music in this game is super interesting, though if I'm being honest, I don't think it's as memorable as Jak 1 or Jak 3 even. I do appreciate its very dynamic soundtrack. The song changing whenever you pull out a weapon or your jet board is a nice touch. But overall, it doesn't really stick in my mind. Like, I can't exactly name you any tunes from this game. Like, you could probably play it and I'd go, is that Jak 2? And like, I'd probably have to think about it for a bit, and that's normally not a good sign. As for the story of this game, it's fun. We get some interesting and cartoonish characters. Jak is a likable bad boy, and Daxter is a fun comic relief. Though, there's so many jokes he tells that are maybe a bit too 2000s, if you get what I mean. They really just rely on sex humor in this game, and that's perfectly fine with me, but it's not very clever either. It's just kinda, look, boobs. I guess it also doesn't help that the game is rated T, so they can't go completely absurd like a game like Postal can. But when Daxter's jokes do land, they land pretty well. It's just that a lot of the jokes again are just look boobs, and again, I'm not a prude. I like jokes like that. The new Smiling Friends episode where Charlie's uncle's doing the thing in the back of the car is hilarious, but that's because there's an absurdity to it. Here it's just boobs, I guess? I don't know, maybe I'm desensitized because of the internet, but I just didn't care. The actual plot of the game is a bit straightforward and full of your typical tropes. Evil overlord king, a gritty rebel force, corruption, evil outside forces, you know, the works. Really, this game is more carried by its characters, world premise, some twist, and the voice acting. Which, spoilers for a game that's almost as old as me. Even as a kid, I saw the twist that Haven City is the world of Jak 1 in the future from like miles away. Maybe I was just a smart kid or something, but they don't actually try their hardest to hide it from you. Luckily, they do actually take time to explore how each character feels about this, and also get into some bootstrap paradoxes, so that's fun. Though, maybe don't think about it too hard. I don't think Jak is a franchise that wants to explore the effects and ethics of time travel. Instead, we get a fun plot that unfolds as you play it. Though, maybe we could have used some more character work with Jak and the other characters, but hey, I think we got a solid story, so I won't complain too much. So yeah, Jak 2 is a very special game, historically to the medium as well as me personally. It really is the most PS2 game of all time. The best? I don't know, I think the PS2 has like over 50 games you could call a classic, and I think 50's cutting it low, but it's definitely somewhere on that list. It's a game that, despite shifting gears to fixate on new trends and a new market, it never lost itself to it. They mix in so many different elements from games that were either popular or ones they were playing at the time and made this incredibly unique beast of a game. Thus, it feels like this conglomeration of time itself, being a mix of the PS1 and N64 3D platformers and a mix of the open world GTA style games we'd see more in the future. It's really this weird fusion between these two things, and I think it's a very unique blend because of that. It makes it a pretty good time capsule. And that's why Jak 2, at the very least, is a beloved cult classic. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. What's your favorite PS2 game, Jak game, or just niche game in general? Personally, I've got a lot of favorite niche games, and maybe I should do more game reviews in the future because I have a lot of opinions on that, and time's beginning a little bit more open for me, so I actually have the time to play through some games. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and hopefully my passion for this game really played through this video, because I do really appreciate the Jak games. It's probably my little weird bubble of gaming that I truly appreciate. But with all that being said, I'll see you next time.